Hey eyes and shine, and welcome to the I Give a Damn podcast, brought to you by Fluorescene Media, the same company behind ODs on Facebook. Today we are joined by Dr. Harbir Sian. Harbir is a practicing optometric physician and private practice owner based out of Vancouver, Canada. He's very well known for his CE lectures, as well as his presence in social media, including his own podcast called the 2020 Podcast, as well as his amazing delivery about the power of optometry in his very own TED Talk. And today we discuss two very important topics, first of which is all about family, as Harbir is a family man with 3 children, and he shares some of his own insights into becoming a father, as well as lessons learned as a parent and how that translates to making business decisions and professional success. And secondly, we discuss e-commerce and the necessity of being present in the digital age, as Harbir shares his own experiences first developing his own glasses brand, and then also incorporating online shopping tools into his own business strategy. And I think this is something that a lot of eye clinics and practitioners have thought about, but maybe just have never really known how to get started or how to do it the best way possible. If you've never met Harbir before, he's just truly an amazing guy, a wonderful speaker with just a massive wealth of knowledge to share. So if you would please hit that subscribe and follow buttons, and let's get started with our conversation with Dr. Harbir Sian. Harbir, welcome to the podcast. This is, again, a huge honor to have you here because you and I have been friends for a couple of years now. We've chatted on the phone. We've just connected on personal levels, but you're everywhere. You're doing everything, and you're clearly somebody who is passionate about our profession, optometry. So there's you're just one of those people I absolutely had to have on.
Oh, thanks, man.
So thank you and welcome. This is great.
It's my pleasure. Honestly, I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited that I get to sit down and chat with you. You know, a little role reversal. You've been on my podcast. Now I get to be on yours. It's really amazing. And the setup is amazing. I'm like looking at what you got going on here and trying to aspire to this setup for my own. So I'm learning right now. Like, what is this? I'm learning.
Yeah. There's so many different equipments and little things, just like in any private practices and things like that. Yeah. There's 1.5 million ways to do the same thing. Different companies, different products. But you just kind of have to figure it out in your own way. Yeah. And then learn from other people. Like we're here at Expo, you get to go meet how other people are doing it, and you're like, oh wait, I've been trying to work on that problem. Maybe I'll adapt that strategy or see what you can change in your...
That's exactly. It's one of the best things about coming to these conferences. If I can just apologize right off the top for my really raspy voice, I'm very sorry. This is my 3rd or 4th day in New York, and inevitably when I'm traveling and if I'm going out and enjoying myself in the evenings, this is going to happen. And I texted my wife this morning. I was like, I'm supposed to be on a podcast, but my voice is gone. She rolled her eyes like, of course it did. It always happens. So I'm sorry, and hopefully this still comes off clearly. And
no, you're going to sound amazing. And then we all get that. It's just the hard time thing, especially for you, because you're coming from the west side of Canada. Yeah. And that's just a whole thing in itself with all the jet lag.
Yeah, the jet lag is real, man. I took a red eye on Tuesday night. I got here Wednesday morning. And the second I had a connecting flight in Toronto. I changed my clothes. I changed into a suit in Toronto. As soon as I landed, I ran into the hotel, dropped my bags, and then I ran over to the Vision Monday Summit that was happening that day. And that was it. That's just go. From that point forward, I got like 4 hours sleep that night, and I had to do lectures yesterday, and then anyways. And then sometimes some of the pain is self-inflicted. Like last night, I got back to the hotel at 4 a.m. That was just because I decided to stay out. So, I can't complain too much.
Right. You got to enjoy life a little bit. And for people who are listening, watching, haven't had the pleasure of getting to a lot of meetings, it can be really exciting. You're meeting a lot of people, making a lot of connections. The networking is insane.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And I think probably outside of just learning new material from like CE lectures and things like that networking is honestly one of the most valuable things that I've found.
Yeah. I feed off of that stuff. Actually, that's kind of I realized over the last few years is one of my happy places is on the exhibit floor, just bumping into people, shooting the breeze and like just sharing wisdom or mostly just learning from other people is one of my favorite places to be. So I love it. I'm always trying to be I'm not trying to be at every conference, but I try to go to the key ones and, it's just, I love being there.
Yeah. And it shows. I know I do want to take a moment just for our viewers, our listeners who haven't had the pleasure of getting to meet with you, know who you are. Can you give us kind of just a quick synopsis of your background, like who you are, how do you practice, what are you doing? Yeah,
for sure. So I'm based in Vancouver. I live in Vancouver. We have two clinics that are sort of just outside of Vancouver. What I feel like the interesting thing I like to share about that is there are two different modalities. So one is a sublease practice with LensCrafters, and one is a private independent practice. So I got my foot in these two different worlds and seeing the industry from these two different perspectives. It's quite helpful. There's pearls that I can take from one practice to the other, and there's some things you just can't cross over. But that's how I practice, and I like to do a lot of stuff, as you know, extracurricular stuff. I like to volunteer when I can, give back, whether it's locally in Vancouver, I work with an organization, or globally with someone like One Sight, where I get to travel to different countries and give eye care to different people. The podcast is a big thing for me. I love doing the 2020 podcast. Available on all your favorite podcast channels.
Yeah, shameless plug. It's great. No, it's great, and I definitely suggest it to people.
Yeah, thanks. And social media and stuff like that. And then I like to lecture, right? So part of coming to the conferences, I like to give CE lectures and stuff. So I love being out there, man. It's just a big thing for me, and that's me in a nutshell.
On top of being a family man, I know you just had your third daughter, right?
That's right. 3 girls. Just an incredible blessing. I was just telling you. A lot of people are asking me like, man, what's it like having 3 kids? And the first thing that comes to my mind is that I'm just so blessed. I don't even know what else to say to anybody. It's like, we know enough people who have had their challenges having kids or, with health and stuff like that. And to have 3 healthy babies, and my wife has come through health, normally pretty much everything intact and all of that. It's just such a blessing, and we're so lucky. And I'm spending time at home. I'm actually taking time off from clinical care to be home with the family, and it's taken such a massive load off of both my wife and I, and it's been such a great process. And like, I can't tell you that how much less stress we have currently with our third child compared to what we had with our first. It's just a breeze. We're just like, everybody's having a great time at home right now. So when I go back to work, it'll probably be a little bit of a different story. I'll report back to you exactly what that's like. But so far, it's been awesome, man.
I'm happy and thankful that, yes, all your children are healthy. I think that is, in talking with my own mother, I don't have any children myself, but I talked with my own mom, and she was like, no, I was just happy that both her 2 sons, my brother and I, came out normal, that we were healthy. We didn't have any significant health issues, nothing like that. And certainly I was the second child. Like, my parents said the same thing. Like, it was a lot easier the second time around. What they were so concerned about realized it's just gonna kind of happen on its own. So less maybe to worry about in that regard. One thing that you and I were kind of talking about before we started recording the podcast is an interesting observation that I picked up on, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts and feedback. So I've noticed, as an associate doctor working in different practices, I've noticed that like a parenting voice comes out in some practice owners who have children. And that's something that I recognize. It's like a skill set. It's like a badge of growth from having children that I think really is something you can't like just pick up in a book. You probably can, but it's very difficult where parenting just forces you to learn these skills that can be applied to not just dealing with difficult patients, dealing with difficult staff members, making hard decisions. That's a skill set I've recognized. Do you?
I agree 100%. Now, of course, like everything else, there's different levels to it, and certain individuals maybe gain a certain level of skill set when they have kids compared to others. And I would 100% agree. And with each child, it's changed. It's like the funny thing is we all have it. It's not from a book. It's not something that I've grasped externally. It's already inside. It's like a software update that happens when you have a kid, right? It's like all of a sudden somebody flipped a switch, and now you have this empathy that you didn't have before, this patience that you didn't have before. Definitely something does change. I think those are the two. Actually, those are the two. It just kind of happened to naturally come out just now. Empathy and patience. I'm still working on the patient. I'm not the most patient person, but certainly when you know that you sometimes have to deal with a toddler that for absolutely no reason at all has decided to lay flat on the ground and kick and scream and spill their yogurt or whatever. You know you have to deal with that sometimes. You can deal with that annoying patient or the whatever thing that might be happening at work. It's a breeze compared to those tantrums that you got to deal with sometimes.
Everything gets the volume turned down a little bit on those. What otherwise would have been ruined your day, big tough issue. You're just like, I can deal with it.
I guess it's also you can look at it as you have a different outlook, a different perspective. Now everything relatively changes so dramatically, right? That experience at work now relative to what you have to do as a parent actually is not that bad, and so on. You might get those things, that patience and empathy. You don't have kids, but you may build that, develop.
I don't have kids yet.
Yet,
no, I aspire to have kids. I want to be a father. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I wish that for you. I hope you do. You may gain that before you have kids through some other experiences, right? You might have that already, but certainly having kids changes things. You also get used to not sleeping as much. You get used to running on a lot less sleep and different levels of energy that you just need to have. Actually, I was saying this to you too. Like, it's one thing that happens for sure. This that sort of software update that happens as far as emotionally, but there's other things that I've realized have clicked in my brain. Like, one is you can tap into a whole different level of energy when you know you have to take your kid somewhere, or your kid is sick and there's nobody else is going to come and help you. You got to take your kid, or you got to run out and grab the medication or whatever. All of a sudden, doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. or you're in the middle of some other thing, your priorities shift so quickly and everything becomes so crystal clear about what you have to do at that moment. It's pretty cool. And I've tried to replicate that in other areas of my life. I can't do it quite as well, but I've tried to do, like, for example, yesterday I was giving these CE lectures and I had all these other things in my mind about, okay, later I got to record a podcast, I got to go meet a few people on the exhibit floor. But I just thought, imagine this was something that you're doing for your child, right? And then everything else just sort of like washes out of your brain. And it's kind of cool that if you're able to tap, I know some people are able to tap into that
clarity of the moment, sort of truly being present in that given
100%,
moment.
Yeah. If you don't mind me sharing the other story, I was quickly telling you.
I was gonna kind of tee that up for you, but please, I know.
Yeah, the other thing that it's so funny that's come up not that long ago. It's funny. It took me like my older one was like 5 at this point, 4 or 5. It took me that many years to kind of come to this little revelation. But my second, she threw up in the car as we were driving back from our little road trip, and we got back to the house, and I was trying to clean her car seat. I was trying to unplug the car seat, and the toddler car seats are kind of intricate. You got to like lift the thing up and like take the plug out and weave the seatbelt.
It's not a joke.
It's not easy, but there's puke all over the whole thing, right? So I'm trying to do it and like try to do it so my hands don't get dirty. I got like a towel in one hand so I can hold the seat, and it just wasn't like, I was like, oh, I'm fumbling around with this stupid thing. And eventually I was like, oh, just do it, man. I chucked the thing, I rolled my sleeve up, I just dug my hands into the seat, got puke all over myself, unplugged it, just took the thing off, and it was done in like a fraction of the time and I just realized that in that moment, for whatever reason, when I had puke all over my hands, was the moment I realized, like, this relates to your work, relates to business. A lot of times in business, I'm like, oh, let me just see if I can kind of like half-ass it or kind of just tease my way through this. And a lot of times you just got to roll up your sleeves and just dive in, and you got to get dirty, and things get done so much more quickly and efficiently when you do that. But it was so funny that, like, it seems like such an obvious thing, but I had that little epiphany as I was, taking the puke seat out of the car. So that's my... The little thing that I like to share with people. And
I've heard from other entrepreneurs that have said similar tone of, you have to go all in.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're, if only got one foot in it and the other foot in another pod, or if you're just not, you don't have that courage to just say, I'm just going to dive straight into the deep end of the pool and just love the pain of every moment of it. In fact, a philosophy that I've always loved is amor fati. It's loving your fate, passionately loving your fate, whether it be success, failure, hardships. You love every drop of sweat in it. And I think part of that success is that same thing. Kind of, you said, it's like, nope, I can't just, I got to just be like, nope, we're just going to get this out of here and just take control of it.
Yep.
And
sometimes you just got to get puke on your hands.
There we go. That's a good tagline.
That's what it is.
Hey, I just want to take a quick pause and give a shout out to Fluorescene Media. Not only do they make this podcast possible, but they are the company behind the social media community ODs on Facebook, which is the longest running optometric community with the most active discussions amongst over 46,000 eye care professionals. So, if you're not already a member, don't miss out and join the discussion over on ODs on Facebook. Otherwise, let's get back to it. Now, outside of just parenting, and thank you for sharing that, because I think a lot of other people in our industry will resonate with that, have had their own experiences of being a parent, struggles that they've experienced, and I think that's valuable. In our realm of professional expertise, you have had you've had some CE presentations, you've had some experience embracing what a lot of our other colleagues maybe have feared for a decade or more, or at least not only just aware of, but maybe have a bad taste in their mouth about it. But you're the one of the few people I think are at least vocally embracing it as something that we shouldn't just talk badly about. We should really look into it and be like, this is an opportunity.
Yes,
and that's the world of e-commerce.
Right. Definitely something that I agree. And actually, the lecture that I gave yesterday on e-commerce, I started off with that. Like, we've been through this disruption in the past 10, 12, 13 years, whatever it was. And here's the reasons why. Like, one is like the industry was kind of ripe for it. We know what Warby Parker is kind of like talking about, the fat margins and cutting out the middleman and all the extra costs that get hidden into the fees, cost of your glasses and things like that. But also, we were just in denial for so long, and we were so slow to move on it. Like, we saw it happen, we're like, oh no, we hate it, or like, I'm just gonna close my eyes and pretend like it's not happening, or it will eventually go away, this e-commerce sort of revolution that's happened over the last decade. That's how I started the lecture, but I say, look, now we have solutions, resources available to us that we didn't have at that time, and the experience that I've had over the last 5-6 years is that I had started my own eyewear brand. So from scratch, I designed the glasses, I worked with the manufacturer, I designed the boxes and the cloth, and I worked with the web designer to build the Shopify website, and I did all the like social media and the marketing. I joke I was head of media relations and logistics. Like, I was the guy who was boxing up and taking it to the post office to ship them out. I was doing everything.
You're actually the CEO, the finance, the CFO.
Exactly.
We'll send you over to our shipping department, and then you just change your voice a little bit.
That's so funny, dude. I cannot tell you countless emails that I sent pretending to be someone else, because I had different email addresses, right? So there'd be the info at Oxford and Kin or something, or help at Oxford and Kin, whatever the thing that we had, and that would be, I don't know, Sarah sending emails from there, and then like there'd be a question that would be related to prescription in the glasses, and we'd say, oh, well, let me send you over to our vision expert or whoever, and that would be me from a different email. Like, just it's so silly, but I always felt like one day I was going to get caught. Someone was like, aren't you the same person doing this from both emails?
Just put on a hat. No.
Yeah, no, exactly. But it's just part of the thing that you do. It's part of that sort of fake it till you make it kind of thing that we talk about a lot, right? When you're as
love
an
it or
entrepreneur.
hate it, yeah.
But the e-commerce side of it certainly is something that I got to learn firsthand, and how hard it is to try to compete in that way. Like, build your own Shopify site. Try to be on the same playing field as Warby Parker and Zenni. There's just, you cannot compete unless you got millions of dollars.
Right. They have investor backing. They've
exactly.
got a ridiculous wall that you have to kind of climb over.
100%. So it was easy to say, well, I can't compete. I'm not even going to try. But now we have tools and solutions, like kind of what I talk about in the presentation, where we can basically extend. It's not about competing with Zenni and Warby. It's about extending our services to our existing patients and other potential patients who are already kind of in our sphere or in our geographical area, to offer them the same products and care that you would want to offer them in office, but now when they're sitting on their couch. And the other thing I tell people is, here's my day generally when I'm going to work. I'm up at like, 5 or 6 if I can try to get a workout in. I help get the girls ready for school. I drop one or two of them, both of them off at school. Then I drive to work. I get to work around 9, see patients till like 5. And then I'm back home around 6 or 6:30, have dinner with the family, bathe the kids, get them to bed, read them a book, whatever. Next thing you know, I'm on the couch, it's 9 p.m. When was I going to go shopping at that? When was I going to go pick up my contact lenses? It was not going to happen. So at 9 o'clock, I open up my phone and I say, I needed that thing. Okay, where am I going to buy it?
Yeah.
Right? If I know I'm doing that almost daily, everybody's doing that. So you can't sit there and say, well, my patients are not doing that, or my patients are the ones that will be okay coming into the office to get their eye drops or their whatever.
Not all the time.
And in fact, I think we are underestimating the service we would do for our patients if we gave them the opportunity to buy those things or get their contacts shipped to their house and all these things. So that's the way I look at e-commerce now. I don't look at Warby and Zenny and those guys. I look at what we call like a more immersive experience in the blending of the digital and the physical world for the betterment of our patients. And yes, fine, it'll help our revenue a little bit eventually, but like you're just serving your patients, you're meeting your patients where they are.
And that's a huge component of it, just that service mindset of you want to not only keep your patients happy, but you want to also express that value. I think the big thing, even of embracing, and I do this in my videos when I talk about just trying to educate the public on like YouTube about glasses. And I recognize, hey, there's a place for these online companies. And I try to at least people like, hey, if you're looking for the best glasses, if you're looking for great glasses that fit you and you're going to see your very best out of, I discourage people from going to online right away, because if you want functional glasses, if you know what you're doing, then that can be a place. But if you're looking for the best glasses, there's no doubt you want the personal touch. You want to be fitted correctly. You want the help finding a frame that's going to work well with your lens, which is going to work well with your prescription. All of these factors come into play. But if you're just gonna, financially, time-wise, service-wise, you just want to shoot in the dark and see how it works with an online vendor, you can find success, but you may not. And I think just we can be upfront about that and like, here, let me help you out the best we can, but we're here if something happens.
Yep, absolutely. And my conversations with my patients in the exam room has changed so dramatically over the years. So 10 years ago, it was like, so in BC, it's very different. We were deregulated right at the same time, like the Warbys of the world showed up. That right at that time in 2010, we went through deregulation where everything in British Columbia in eye care was like, you could go buy contacts online without a valid prescription. Nobody's going to verify it. You can just order whatever you want, and it'll show up to you.
It's a little weird.
It is weird. It is crazy. And yeah, for a little while, we saw people coming in with all sorts of weird things because they were buying the cheapest. They just wanted the cheapest contacts they could find. They're buying these conventional lenses with like 30-year-old technology, and they're trying to wear those, like sleep in them or something. And they're coming in with all sorts of funky stuff in their eyes, right? Eventually, that seems like it's kind of figured itself out. But, my conversation has changed from strongly discouraging patients in the exam room from going online to now saying, okay, here's your prescription. Like, you're welcome to take it wherever you want. If it's a low prescription, like a -1 or -2, I'll say, okay, chances are this will probably be okay, right? But like people always think, I also explain like, they say, I need my PD. I was like, all right, but keep in mind, it's not just the horizontal measurement that's important. If you buy a giant frame and you're not lining up.
Yeah, and it's hanging low on their nose.
And you give them that little piece of education. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. Right? Or you tell them about, induced prism or something when you have a high prescription, or if you had a lot of astigmatism, the aberrations or things that might be induced by things being out of whack. Then they start to say, oh, I see. They don't know that. Right? We immediately assume that they're just want to go online because it's cheap and they don't want to buy from it. They just don't know that there's a difference in the way things, like you said, like you explained yourself. And so my conversations have changed to just mentioning that little bit and like, cool, if you buy your glasses, if you don't like them, come back here. Nice thing about online is you can usually return things, right? So it's kind of it's also sort of a risk-free situation for the patient there. So anyways, I've definitely changed my tone quite dramatically there. And I feel like the same number of patients are walking out the door compared to when I was trying to really hold on to them tightly. So it saves me the stress.
In just your experience thinking more about this, analyzing the playing field, are there any businesses, companies, people who you think have had more success or maybe failures trying to incorporate e-commerce?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of different players, especially because of COVID. Things escalated dramatically, right? So we had to all close our doors and go home. And now, as a business owner, I was sitting at home thinking, okay, how do I get to my patients? How do I continue bringing revenue? So at that time, we didn't really have any kind of e-commerce thing set up. We had a little basic thing that I'd kind of built myself and on the back end of the website, and that allowed us to bring in a little bit of revenue through contact lenses. So we basically email blasted all our patients. We went through all of our EMR stuff and we went, okay, here's who bought contacts in the last 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever. And we started emailing them all saying, you still need contacts, we can still get them to you, so we got some revenue coming in that way. But then companies like in Canada, there's less options in Canada than there are currently have been here in the States. But we have the equivalent of like a doctor contact lens. I feel like here, Bree and Dr. Contact Lens have really done a really good job of building that platform, integrating with the EMR and getting out there, like sending a text to the patient saying, you bought contacts 11 months ago. It's time for you to renew your annual supply, book your eye exam, just click this button, right? And then we have a similar company in Canada called Auto Optics, and they're crossing the border, both of them now, but those guys both have basically a very similar platform and they've been doing really well. But on the e-commerce, like selling glasses and stuff like that, it's been kind of hard. Like there hasn't been a lot of people who have done it right. Lately, I'm seeing Optify. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm answering the question the way you wanted to answer.
No. I'm loving this. This is great. And I think a lot of viewers and listeners maybe have never heard of these companies or even heard, they don't know what's going on. So this is getting it directly from the source from you. Well, this is studying
the type of stuff I look at in my lecture, right? So I've been doing the research and talking to people in the industry, what's available. And I don't get anything kickbacks from these companies. These are just the ones that I've looked at intensely and like, okay, these are the 3 that are basically plug and play, and it looks like you got a legit high-end e-commerce site for your own clinic, right? So I have Clarity Eye Care. You go to clarityeyecare.ca and you click the Shop Now button. It takes you to another page. It just looks like you're on clarityeyecare.ca. On the back end, though, Auto Optics and Eye Drop Shop have built out my contact lens and my eye drops and my heat eye masks and all of that looks just like beautifully placed. And a company like Optify or Ocuco can do the same thing with eyewear. So you go the same way you go to Warby or you go to Ray-Ban or something, right? You click on the website and they show you all the frames. Like you click on men's and then you click on sunglasses and you can see all the men's sunglasses. And then you click on the sunglasses that you like and then you can see the 3 different colors it comes in. And then you can click virtual try-on and you can see what it looks like on your face. All of those applications are available to us now and for a fairly reasonable price. And it looks just like going to a Warby or a Ray-Ban, like a high-end, site like that. And even better, some of these can integrate with the EMR and give live time updates to the inventory. So you just sold that frame, you just sold out, cool, the website's gonna update and say sold out, right? So patients will know what you have in stock, what you don't have in stock. And like you can, if your patient's coming in tomorrow, you send a text message reminder, hey, you got your appointment tomorrow. Before you come in, here's an opportunity to browse our frame selection and actually pre-select some frames that you like. And it goes into sort of a digital locker. So when they come into the office tomorrow, you've already set them aside. Or at the very least, you know what they like, right? So this is that kind of immersive, blending the digital with the physical world experience that we have available to us now. But more importantly, the big retailers are trying to do this. This is what Nike and all these other massive corporations are trying to do. So it's a chance for us to be almost like up to speed with like big retail, which we have not been able to do before, right? So it's really, I think it's super cool. Again, a lot of this stuff hasn't been super available for us in Canada up until recently. So I'm like about to jump in on all this stuff.
Right.
And it's just there, it's available.
I think something that maybe some people haven't thought of, and this could be a little bit higher level, is understanding the digital marketing behind products and the tracking of trends, not just as a global trend, but individual trend. Because with how we search on social media or how we search using our phone, our computers. And most people are searching for things with their phone these days. It's not just desktop.
Yes.
But they track what you look at, what you search, how long you stare at a specific brand and advertisement. And it's scary how much they know about what you like or what you're interested in.
Yep.
And with that, these companies can curate that you're probably more likely to be associated or value, like you said, Nike or a certain car brand or a certain class. Like, are you somebody who's more frugal? Are you? And I don't say classes in like how much money you have, but like, are you somebody who values spending more on the budget line of things, or do you like spending more on the luxury side of things, or in what part of commerce do you pick and choose of how you want to spend your money?
Yeah.
Like these marketing companies track that. They know you by a number that this person with this phone values these things, and they may choose to show an advertisement of a certain frame versus another.
Yeah.
And that's
pretty crazy.
That is crazy, and it's powerful.
Yeah.
But you can see how big players who have the money to invest and spend or have a big brand, they can capitalize on that. And they're looking at, if they're not doing it, they're looking at it and they're preparing for another phase of marketing that direction.
That's absolutely true. And we don't have that kind of power, but we have, again, that's why I think we often will get bogged down in that, like, I can't compete with $1 billion corporation, but don't try to.
Yeah. Right.
Just that's not what we're trying to do. And I actually say that in my presentation. I'm going to keep going back to my lecture here.
Yeah.
But a lot of what you just said, I talk about in the lecture. And I call it my Debbie Downer slide. And it's like, what is your goal with e-commerce? Because if your goal is to compete with Warby, you should leave. If you're
That's a hard truth.
Right? This is not the right lecture for you. If your goal is to build your own website from scratch, this is not the lecture for you. You don't want to do that. If you're going to try to acquire customers from across the country, don't try to do that. Yeah. That's my don't try to do that slide, right? But then I say, here's what we are going to do, and here's why it's still going to be valuable, right? Like I said, creating that immersive experience for people who are within our kind of geographical area and that type of thing. But interesting thing you said about searching on phone. In the beginning of my lecture, I have a stats section. I get these. It's really cool, and I know you're kind of into like, this is a nerdy stuff that I'm into as well, kind of data and looking at these graphs and charts and stuff. It's a company called We Are Social. They put out this massive deck of data. It's like 400 slides, I think biannually or something like that. And so every time I'm going to do this presentation, I'll go to see how they put out a new deck because I'll update my stats. But it's really cool. Like you said, there's a stat. It's like 99% of people use social media through their phone. And that seems obvious, but 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. 10 years ago, we were doing Facebook from our laptop and our desktop all the time, right? Now it's Instagram and TikTok and all these things. But another cool stat was how many people have bought through mobile devices. And it's over 50% of people have bought stuff through their mobile device. And then the other cool stat was about how people are searching online and based on generations. So is it Gen Z is the young, like kind of the 18-year-olds now?
I believe so.
Is a cool thing. They broke down searching brands online, and are they searching using search engines or are they using social media?
Right.
And the Gen Zs are more social media, less Google.
Yeah.
And then you get to the millennials, it's like 50-50. You get to the next generation, it's a little bit more skewed to Google. And of course, the older you get, it goes more to just classic search engines. But like, this is something that we need to think about when we're talking about marketing, right? So I don't mean to overwhelm. I think sometimes when I talk about these things, people get overwhelmed, like, oh, I got all these things I got to do. It's just things to keep in mind. Classic search engine is still, it's not going away, but people are searching, as you know better than anybody else, on YouTube for answers. Yeah. I was at a doctor's office last week. It was perfect timing before I came here to give this lecture. Took my daughter to the doctor, and I was waiting in the waiting room, and a teenager came out. She's like 15, 16 years old, and she goes to her mom, oh, the doctor said it's TMJ. What's that? Well, anyways, the mandibular thing, right? Your jaw's kind of locking or whatever. And the mom's like, oh, I don't know what that is. And the girl's like, oh, yeah, I already looked it up on TikTok.
Yeah.
That's where she went to learn about TMJ.
For a 15-second video from some doctor or maybe some girl who's sharing her experience. I was diagnosed with this, and this is how I
That's where people are going to get answers, so we need to be there.
And on that point, to doctors who aren't on social media, who don't, I don't like the term influencer, but they don't view themselves. I think of myself as an educator. I'm just an educator. I'm not trying to other than encouraging you to see your doctor and get good healthcare and be an advocate for yourself. I'm not trying to influence you to do anything.
Yeah.
But I think the psychology that we need to be aware of is that the reason why the younger generations, or why all the generations are going towards social media, is because we love, as human beings, we're psychologically geared to stories, to personal relationships, connection, wanting to be a part of a tribe, of connecting with peers, and that's, we don't love corporate advertisements. We see the BS. We see those as commercials. Even when they're accurate, even when they're true, it's like, no, we want to connect with other people. And so you as a professional, as people come in to see you as a local professional, you are making that personal connection, right? And that's why private practice, I think, has been so successful for so many years, is because they come in and you're the doctor, you're the person with all the knowledge and the skills. And older generations just heard that as a voice of authority. And now you can still do that on social media, on being on these different platforms. You show up in that same, and you make that connection. But what's fascinating is you can make that connection in not just your local community, but like on not just a national, but international scale.
Right.
And
you've done that better than anybody.
It's overwhelming, but thank you. When I get not just like thank you love letters from people in the Philippines and from Ireland, and awesome. I had a guy travel from Dubai to come see me for dry eye care.
Wow.
And
That's
it's
amazing.
just like I'm like I know there's doctors out there who are way more years my senior and skilled and doing research, but I'm honored, and
That's
incredible. I will do and try my best every day for every patient that comes in. But I think if anybody's listening to this, it's like you have the knowledge, you have the power, and just stepping up and meeting all walks of life and just vocalizing our passion, our skills, our knowledge. It's not just good for you, your business, your brand. Personal branding is a big thing. You've done an amazing job. You've presented on personal branding, right? So we could talk about that for another hour.
Yeah, easily. I literally have a 1 hour lecture on that, so I could give you that right now too. I agree with that, everything you just said, man. It's an amazing opportunity for us. Actually, and again, not to like overwhelm people, it is an opportunity, but it's shifting to almost a necessity with, again, the way people are searching for information. We should be out there. We should be the ones providing the education and not them finding out secondhand or through some maybe less reliable sources. And people want to see, like you said, one of the key trends, like I go to these meetings and I research on like through these different industry leaders or the trend setting type of corporations. And one of the key kind of, what's the right word, sort of trends or whatever, like the mindset in the consumer right now is there's a lot of cynicism, and there's a lot of, there's sort of a lack of trust in the corporate world or any sort of business, to be honest with you.
Big businesses.
Yeah. And so for us, we always want to look so polished, and so like when we go on social media, we want our website to look beautiful, and it should. But on social media, it gives us an opportunity to just be real. And that's where you build the trust. That's where you lose the cynicism, is when you show your face. I see lots of clinics have this beautiful Instagram that's so polished, but I was like, that just looks the same as like Warby Parker's Instagram, or or like Nike's Instagram. It's got to be, you got to put your face on there and say, hey, it's Dr. Sian. I just wanted to share with you that we have this amazing service that we provide. 30 seconds of that, and get your staff to do the same and bring it down to the patient's level.
It's funny because I know in the social media world, I'll post videos on YouTube, which I have high-end cameras like we're shooting here. Like these are not cheap cameras. They look really sharp. And there's a couple of, I guess, influencers in the videography, photography world that I follow. And they make stunning visuals. It looks better than commercials. Like they get hired to make commercials, but they look so good. And they're like artistic. It's like watching a documentary film, but like this is a free YouTube video for me to watch. But then they'll turn around and they'll make social media content like for shorts, reels, TikToks, but they don't do as well. And it turns out the people because
they're using the high quality.
They're using the high quality stuff, and I do that, and I think it has a role. It has something to do with branding. Yeah. But then they learned, and they've done testing, that if you use just a phone, something that's a little bit more real, shaky camera, more realistic, it's happening, it's raw. They get way more engagement, way more people follow it, people bond with it, because you're not just seeing this fake, glossy, perfect world thing, because that's not real life.
Look at the stuff that goes viral on TikTok. It's grainy and like it's just I don't even understand it, to be honest with you. Like I don't understand the algorithm that well. But like I've had videos, a couple of videos go viral on TikTok, and sure, they were good videos.
Yeah, you maybe planned it a little bit.
Yeah, but I didn't expect it to, like, one of them has like 15 million views.
That's nuts.
I don't know why or how, right? But I kind of rode that wave because I was like, wow, they clearly liked that topic. Yeah. So let me make a couple of more. And so the next one did like 3 million views, and the next one did 1 million. And then I was like, I don't want to keep making the same content. So I just stopped. I haven't made a TikTok video for like a year now, right? But like, it's just crazy what goes viral. And yeah, some people will keep making the same content because they keep getting the likes and stuff. I'm just not in. And
that can kind of get you pigeonholed a little bit. Yeah. Like I would love to talk about things outside of eye care on YouTube, but the algorithms, they will punish you for that.
That's unfortunate.
You know, it's so that's why you see creators, and I know a lot of creators who make other channels. They make second and third channels on different topics. Other interests, and you're basically starting a whole new business at that point. Crazy. You know, just as you have one practice, you have two practices. They have different practices, but still in the same niche, essentially. So it's kind of that same mindset. And even this, like podcasting, interviewing, very different than making curated YouTube.
So videos. Different. Yeah, it's just crazy, man. That world is pretty intense. And again, I understand why it can get kind of overwhelming for people, but you know, going back to kind of the root of that e-commerce thing, I think it's very important for us to understand there's opportunities for us now, solutions for us available there, and to just dabble. We don't, again, just change your mindset from I'm trying to compete with some big e-com companies to just trying to provide extra services to my patients.
And that's our niche. That really is. That's all of our niches, is like we give amazing high quality care, personalized critical care in the clinic, and that's something that cannot be really replaced. Right. I know even right now virtual exams and they're like AI, it's like that computer is maybe maybe improve upon some skills, but we're far from it replacing you. And physical touch, that can't be replaced with you know, really, even with virtual on your screen, like you're communicating through a screen, but you're looking at pixels. You're looking at a physical, tangible, just screen in front of you. It's not a real person.
Right.
And there is a difference. And people, the more time I talk with teachers who are on Zoom all the time now because they're doing virtual teaching, they will say that again and again and again, that there is a human connection of being physically in front of somebody that is different. And I definitely with exams we'll have that, and we'll continue to see that. And
absolutely.
The value will be way higher than whatever you see through an online media.
I agree 100%. That's not going to be replaced anytime soon anyways. I don't know. I like to kind of like
maybe 100,000 years.
Let's see when you know the robots take over. We'll see what it looks like.
Well, Harbir, this has been a really good conversation. Just to kind of wrap up, for final projects that you're working on, clearly you give a damn about so much in our profession. You're interested in the future, and this isn't the end for you, of course. Right now, other than getting home to see your young one, do you have any other cool projects you're working on? You just celebrated your 100th episode of
Yeah,
podcast?
yeah. Thank you. I'd love to share that. So yesterday we just recorded the 100th episode of the 2020 podcast. And you know, we were going to talk about success and stuff like that. I know we're kind of running long here, but it's funny. Like I celebrated it, but then I was like, 100 episodes of a podcast. Like, you didn't change the world. Okay, relax. You know, it's one of those things that I kind of like battled with a little bit in my head. Like, I want to celebrate this 100 episodes. It took me about 3 years to get those 100 episodes out, and I learned a lot. You know, just recently I went back. I was trying to find like just clips I could post on social media, and I went back to like episode 40, 50 something. So like fairly far into the journey, and I was looking. I was like, oh my God, that's not very good. You know, like I just felt like I was watching a very timid version of myself, like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, right? And I feel, at least that way, I feel proud about how much I've grown. And one key thing that's kind of come out of the whole thing is like, I've learned, and I've people tell me this before, is like, you just got to be comfortable in your own skin, comfortable being who you are, whatever that might be, and that be that authentic person that you are, and that then people start resonating, right? Because I would ask mentors or colleagues, like, how do you give such a good lecture? Or why is it that when you're speaking, I'm paying more attention to you? And they would just tell me, it's like, I'm just being authentic. I'm putting my own energy into it. And now that's how I feel when I do the podcast, right? When I'm speaking to you now, I feel so, I don't think twice about what I'm doing or saying. It's coming out. And the same thing with the podcast. And when I'm lecturing and I make stupid jokes and dad jokes, and my girls know to call it a dad joke when I make a silly comment at home now. You know, it's like, I'm comfortable in that. And that's one of the biggest things that's happened out of the podcast. So
congrats, man.
Thank you.
Amazing.
If I could, please listen to the 2020 podcast on Apple, Spotify, on YouTube, wherever. You know, check it out, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. If there's any topics or things that I could bring on that would help the profession, I'd be happy to do so.
Yeah, I know, and I look forward to collaborating more in this journey as I'm kind of following in your footsteps, right? It is a whole other set of skills, but I appreciate every single moment, every person I get to connect with, and hope it really helps elevate our profession.
Yeah,
right.
And I think it does.
So
yeah, and you don't know who it's going to connect with, right? So you get the the analytics, and you get however many downloads, but there's maybe 1 or 5 or 10 people in there that you just really connected with. And that's going to help change the profession, maybe not tangibly right now, but over time.
But it's a building of a community, and that's what I hope out of this podcast as well. It's just like, no, we are professionals who care about what we're doing. It's not just a job.
There's
a lot more to it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten into this in the first place.
100%.
So, Harbir, thank you again so much.
My pleasure, man.
I wish you the best on your travels back home, and take care of that baby.
Thank you. Thank you. Can I do one quick thing?
You do it.
My name's Harbir Sian, and I give a damn.
Love it. Thank you, Harbir.